This might be the kinds of questions that we might want to ask the database. We will allow students to declare whether they're in a particular major. We want to keep track of parking permits. We want to allow departments at the beginning of the year to specify what sections for each course and when are they offered and who's teaching it. Allow students to enroll in different sections for a particular year. Allow professors to assign grades and whatnot. Right. So these are the kinds of use cases. Right. What does each actor in the system who is going to be using the system, what do they want to accomplish? From the point of view of the faculty, from the point of view of the student, from the point of view of the registrars, each one will have a set of things they want to accomplish, right? All these things that they want to accomplish will be converted into, at some point, into a whole bunch of select statements, inserts, updates, and whatnot, yes? Right? And we need to know whether the database that we're building, the data structure we're building, will support those select statements, those inserts, those updates, yes? So at first, the very, very first step is to identify what are all the nouns, all the verbs, all the verb phrases, right? And these will be clues on what things will be classes, what would be attributes within those classes, what relationships will those classes have between them. The verbs are going to give us clues between the associations between the different nouns and the different classes. We have to be careful that some of these verb phrases will be relationships between two nouns. Sometimes the verb phrases will be relationships between 3 or 4 nouns, okay? And so that we have to be careful, right? How we parse the sentence, either being 2 nouns that are related through a verb, or 3 or 4 nouns related between 2 or 3 different verbs, yes? And that's the difference between deciding whether it's 2 classes between a one-to-many, or maybe 3 different classes with a many-to-many. Right, and maybe a class in between relating all 3 or 4. So we have to be careful there. Also, the scope of the database. How accurate, right, does the modeling need to be, right? So if this is Ford Motor Company and we're trying to model a car, we need to model all the way down to each bolt, right? But if it's university, modeling a car might be enough to just have the license plate, right, and the make and model. Maybe that's it. Okay. So also, depending on who you are, modeling a whole university, it might mean different things, right? If you are the Department of Education, you want to keep track of many universities. So you'll probably have a table called universities, where you have many universities. But if you are a university and you are modeling courses and sections and departments, you probably, since you are the only university, it makes no sense to have a universities table because it'll be just one record in there, right? It's just me, right? So it makes no sense to keep track of a universities table. Make sense? So you have to identify what the scope of your modeling is. So here's a preliminary class diagram which has some deliberate mistakes. All right, and we'll discuss how or why we might have made these mistakes, right? That we might have misread a paragraph or misread a verb phrase, and how we might go about improving on that. So we have here the students, the departments, the grades, the professors, the permit. Notice that we have verbs between the different nouns. So we have students and grades. We have a receives in there. So a student receives a grade. Looks like a professor assigns a grade to a student. Looks like a student enrolls in a section which is taught by a professor. So it looks like it's capturing quite a few of the verb phrases that were listed originally. So let's start looking at some of the challenges on whether this class diagram is correct or not, or what it's missing, what might be missing, and how we would go about identifying these things.